I am Claire Donovan, 33, and today I buried my husband, Michael. As I stood at the cemetery in my black dress, the last mourners offering condolences, a woman I recognized approached me with purpose in her stride. Without a word, she handed me a thick envelope. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry it has to be like this. I'm Vanessa, Michael's wife." I stared at her confused. "I am Michael's wife," I said. She smiled not, but with a confidence that chilled me. "His other wife, and those papers entitle me to half of your company." Before I could process what was happening, she walked away, leaving me holding court documents that would threaten everything I'd spent my life building. My $500 million company, my legacy, my future. If you've ever had your world shattered twice in the same day, leave a comment below. Hit like and subscribe if you felt betrayal from someone you loved most. Before my life imploded, I had what most would call the ultimate success story. I started my tech company, in no vantage, from my tiny studio apartment 8 years ago. With nothing but student debt, a computer, and an idea that everyone said would fail, I worked 20-hour days until my vision became reality. Michael came into my life during those early days. I met him at a startup conference where I was desperately networking for investors. He wasn't wealthy then, a financial analyst with a charming smile who offered to look over my business plan. 3 months later, he moved into my apartment. 1 year later, we married at the city hall, promising to build our dreams together. "You're the visionary, I'm the numbers guy," he always said. "Together we're unstoppable." And for a while, we were. As In No Vantage grew from a scrappy startup to an industry disruptor, Michael cheered me on. He managed our finances while I poured everything into the company. When we finally bought our penthouse overlooking Central Park after In No Vantage hit a $100 million valuation, we drank champagne on the empty floor, dreaming of the life we would build. "This is the beginning," Michael had promised, spinning me around the space. "One day, you'll be the most powerful woman in tech." 4 years later, when Forbes valued In No Vantage at $500 million and put me on its cover, Michael framed the magazine in his office. I believed we were partners in every sense of the word, supporting each other, celebrating victories together, and facing challenges as a united front. Then, 3 weeks ago, Michael died suddenly of a heart attack during his morning run in the park. He was only 37. The doctor said he had an undiagnosed heart condition. One moment, he was alive, texting me that he'd pick up coffee on his way home. Next, a park ranger was calling from his phone. I was still processing the shock of becoming a widow at 33 when Vanessa handed me those court papers at the funeral. How could Michael have another wife? It made no sense. We had been together for 8 years. We shared a home, bank accounts, and friends. We were planning to start a family next year. That night after the funeral, alone in our penthouse surrounded by flower arrangements and sympathy cards, I finally opened the envelope with trembling hands. What I found inside was worse than I had imagined. The documents claimed that Michael and Vanessa had been secretly married for 2 years in a private ceremony in the Cayman Islands. According to the filing, Michael had signed agreements promising her half of all marital assets, which her lawyers were interpreting to include my company, since Michael and I were married when I founded it. She was demanding $250 million in company shares, claiming to be Michael's legal widow. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. The betrayal was too enormous to process. Had any of our lives together been real? How could the man who held me every night, who talked about having children together, secretly marry another woman? 3 days after the funeral, I called an emergency meeting with my company's legal team. As I sat in the conference room I'd designed myself, the room where we'd celebrated hitting a $500 million valuation months earlier, I felt like I was drowning. "This can't be legal," I told them, sliding the court papers across the table. "He wasn't betraying me emotionally, he was trying to steal my company." Mark Levinson, my chief counsel since the early days, reviewed the documents carefully. "This is unusual," he said finally. "The marriage certificate appears legitimate. The signatures on these agreements look like Michael's, but something doesn't add up." "Everything doesn't add up," I said, my voice breaking. "Michael couldn't have been living a double life. We were together." "When was the last time he traveled to the Caymans?" asked Sarah, another attorney on my team. I thought back. He went there quarterly for investment meetings, always for 3 or 4 days. The room fell silent as the implications settled over us. While I was building our company, my husband had been building a separate life, one designed to take everything from me. I need you to be straight with me, I said, looking at each lawyer in turn. Can she take half of my company? Mark leaned forward, his expression grave. If these documents are legitimate, it complicates things. New York is a fair distribution state. The fact that you built the company during your marriage to Michael means it could potentially be considered marital property, if he truly had a legal marriage to this woman. Which is impossible, I interrupted. You can't marry 2 people. You're right, bigamy is illegal, but it creates a legal mess that could take years to untangle, during which time your company could be in limbo, investors might get nervous. Stock could plummet. I felt sick, not from the betrayal, but from the realization that everything I'd built was at risk, not because of any business mistake, but because the man I trusted most had plotted against me. What do we do? I asked. We fight, Mark said. We investigate every detail of these claims. If there's any inconsistency, any flaw in her story, we'll find it. That evening, I returned to an empty penthouse that no longer felt like home. Every corner held memories of Michael that were now tainted. The kitchen where we cooked together, the balcony where we'd watched sunsets, the photos on the walls of our travels, our life, all now calling into question which parts had been real and which had been lies. Unable to bear the silence, I went to Michael's home office. I hadn't entered since his death, but now I needed answers more than I needed to preserve his memory. His office was meticulously organized. Michael had always been fastidious about his workspace. They labeled the files, and she cleared the desk of clutter. I started with his computer, but found it password protected with something new I didn't recognize. Next, I turned to the filing cabinets, methodically going through each drawer. Tax records, investment portfolios, insurance policies. Everything looked normal, exactly what you'd expect from a financial analyst who managed our household finances. I was about to give up when I noticed something odd about the bottom drawer of his desk. When pulled fully open, it seemed shallower than it should be. I ran my fingers along the inside and felt a slight ridge at the back. Pressing it revealed a hidden compartment, a secret space behind the drawer. Inside was a single-file folder. My hands shook as I opened it. The first page was a draft of a prenuptial agreement between Michael Anderson and Vanessa Carlisle, dated 3 years ago, a full year before their alleged marriage and 5 years into our marriage. As I read through the document, my blood ran cold. It detailed exactly how they would extract value from InnoVantage when the time is right. It mentioned using their marriage as leverage to claim marital assets. It even outlined a strategy for creating documented contributions to the company that Vanessa could claim had been instrumental to its growth. The final pages contained handwritten notes in Michael's distinctive script outlining a timeline. The last entry, dated 2 weeks before his death, read, V is concerned about waiting longer, wants to move forward with the claim soon, reminded her that patience will pay off. Bigger valuation equals bigger payday. I sat on the floor of his office until dawn broke, the evidence of his betrayal scattered around me. This wasn't an affair or a secret second life. This was a calculated plan to steal what I had built. They had been waiting for the company to reach its greatest value before making their move. Michael's sudden death had accelerated Vanessa's timeline. When my legal team arrived at my apartment the next morning, I handed them the folder. Mark read through it twice before speaking. This changes everything, he said finally. This isn't about a claim of bigamy anymore. This is a conspiracy and fraud. Sarah nodded. But we need to be strategic about how we use this. If we show our hand too early, she might come up with explanations or alternative evidence. What do you mean? I asked. We need to let her build her case first, Mark explained. Let her present her evidence, testify under oath about her relationship with Michael, and establish her claims about contributions to your company. Only then do we reveal what we know. I understood the strategy, but the thought of sitting through weeks or months of court hearings, listening to this woman claim she had rights to my life's work, made me physically ill. There's something else we should do, Sarah added. That prenup draft has Michael's handwritten notes. We should get a forensic handwriting analyst to authenticate them. And we need to investigate Vanessa Carlisle, everything from her background to her movements over the past 3 years. For the first time since the funeral, I felt a flicker of something other than despair. Not hope exactly, but purpose. A clear enemy to fight instead of just an abstract betrayal to mourn. Do it, I told them, whatever it takes. The following weeks became a blur of legal preparations and private investigations. I threw myself into the work, partly to build our defense and partly to avoid thinking about how I had been deceived by the man I loved. Our investigation into Vanessa revealed that she had met Michael 4 years ago at a financial conference in Miami. She worked for a competitor of the investment firm where Michael consulted. Their professional connection had evolved into something more, though exactly when it was unclear. What became clear was that she had been the architect of much of the plan. Her digital footprint showed research into marital assets, corporate ownership structures, and even specific searches about InnoVantage's valuation growth. Meanwhile, my company was suffering. News of the lawsuit had leaked to the business press. Our stock dropped 15% in a week as investors worried about leadership stability. Competitors began circling, reaching out to our top talent with lucrative offers to jump ship. Every day brought a new crisis to manage, another fire to extinguish. I survived on 3 hours of sleep and too much coffee, splitting my time between running my company and building our legal defense. Through it all, Vanessa maintained a public silence, letting her high-powered legal team speak for her. But she made sure I saw her, showing up at industry events I was scheduled to attend, dining at restaurants near our corporate headquarters, and even moving into an apartment 3 blocks from my penthouse. It was psychological warfare, and it was working. I lost weight, developed insomnia, and found myself jumping every time my phone rang. The woman was haunting me while trying to steal my company. 6 weeks after Michael's funeral, we had our first court date, a preliminary hearing to establish the timeline for the case. I arrived at the courthouse to find Vanessa already there, dressed in conservative black as if still in mourning, her legal team flanking her like bodyguards. This was the first time I'd seen her up close since the funeral. She was younger than me, 28 or 29, with the polished look of someone who invested in their appearance. As our eyes met across the courtroom, she gave me a small, almost sympathetic smile that made my blood boil. The hearing itself was procedural, setting dates for discovery, establishing parameters for financial disclosures. But watching Vanessa's confident demeanor as her lawyer described her as Mrs. Anderson, the legal widow of Michael Anderson, made the situation real. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. Ms. Donovan, did you know about your husband's other marriage? Did Michael Anderson help build InnoVantage? Is it true Vanessa Carlisle contributed intellectual property to your company's core products? I kept walking, eyes forward, letting Mark handle the brief, no-comment responses. But inside, I was screaming. That night, alone in my penthouse, I finally allowed myself to break down completely. I threw Michael's photographs against the wall, watching the glass shatter. I screamed until my voice gave out. I drank too much wine and fell asleep on the bathroom floor, waking at dawn with swollen eyes and a renewed determination. This woman wasn't trying to take my money. She was trying to take credit for my work, my vision, my creation. The company I had built from nothing while she was plotting with my husband on the sidelines. I would not let that happen. Over the next 3 months, the case consumed my life. Discovery revealed the extent of Michael and Vanessa's relationship, emails, photos, and travel records showing their time together during his business trips. She produced documentation of their Cayman Islands ceremony, complete with photographs of them exchanging vows on a beach at sunset. Each revelation was a fresh wound. While I had been working 80-hour weeks growing our company, believing Michael was supporting my dreams, he had been laying the groundwork to claim half of everything. The hardest part was maintaining my composure during depositions, sitting across a conference table while Vanessa described intimate details of her relationship with my husband. Listening to her claim that she had contributed key strategic insights that helped shape InnoVantage's product roadmap through Michael. Michael always consulted me on Claire's business ideas, she said smoothly during one particularly painful session. He valued my perspective as someone with experience in the industry. Many of the features that made InnoVantage successful came from our discussions. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood, but I remained silent as my lawyers had instructed. Let her build her narrative. Let her commit to her story under oath. Our time would come. The forensic handwriting analysis confirmed that the notes in the hidden prenup draft were indeed Michael's. Our investigator also uncovered something interesting. Vanessa had previously been involved in another lawsuit against a former employer, claiming she deserved credit for patents the company had filed. The case had settled quietly, but the pattern was telling. 4 months into the legal battle, with our first major court date approaching, Mark called an emergency strategy meeting. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "Vanessa's team has submitted new evidence, emails between her and Michael discussing specific InnoVantage product features. If authentic, they support her claim of intellectual contribution." My stomach dropped. That's impossible. Michael didn't have detailed knowledge of our product development. He understood our business model, but not the technical specifics. Sarah opened her laptop. "That's what we thought too, but look at these." The emails showed conversations between Michael and Vanessa discussing technical aspects of InnoVantage's platform, specific features, implementation challenges, and even some code snippets. To anyone who didn't know better, it would appear that Michael had been sharing inside information and that Vanessa had been providing valuable input. "These have to be fake," I said, scanning the documents. "Michael wouldn't have had access to this level of technical detail." "We thought the same," Mark replied. "But they came from Michael's email account. The metadata appears authentic. We've asked for our digital forensics team to analyze them, but..." I suddenly remembered something. Wait, those dates, June 2020, that was when we were developing our third-generation platform. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my calendar history. Here, June 12-16, 2020, we had an executive retreat in Montauk. The entire leadership team spent 4 days brainstorming our technical roadmap. Michael came for the weekend, part of the social events. Sarah leaned forward. Was there any material he could have accessed? Presentations, documents? I nodded slowly. My laptop. I left it in our room during dinner and activities. He would have had access to my email, all my files. The realization made me feel ill. He was stealing information even then, 3 years ago. Mark's expression hardened. "This helps us. If we can prove he stole confidential information and shared it with a competitor, which Vanessa technically was, that's corporate espionage. It transforms their narrative from 'she contributed to the company' to 'they conspired to steal trade secrets.'" For the next 2 weeks, we worked feverishly to build this counter-narrative. Our technical team analyzed the information in those emails, tracing exactly what had been taken from my files. Our investigators dug deeper into Vanessa's employment history, uncovering that she had been quietly pushed out of her previous company around the time these emails were exchanged, something she had concealed in her deposition. As our court date approached, I found myself growing calmer rather than more anxious. The pieces were falling into place. The betrayal still hurt, it would probably always hurt, but now I understood its dimensions. This wasn't about love or emotion for Vanessa and Michael. It was about money, my company. The trial began on a rainy Tuesday morning, 9 months after Michael's death. The courtroom was packed with reporters and industry observers, all eager to witness the business scandal that had been brewing for months. Vanessa's legal team presented their case first, painting a picture of a devoted second wife who had contributed significantly to InnoVantage's success through her relationship with Michael. They showed the marriage certificate, vacation photos, and text messages. They presented the emails discussing technical features as evidence of her business contributions. Through it all, Vanessa played the role of the grieving widow perfectly, soft-spoken, occasionally dabbing at her eyes, and describing her partnership with Michael in both personal and professional terms. "We always understood that when the time was right, I would take a formal role at InnoVantage," she testified. "Michael assured me that my contributions were valuable, that I deserved recognition. We were waiting for the right moment to approach Claire about my involvement. I maintained my composure, though inside I was seething. The woman had never set foot in my company's offices, had never met a single member of my team, had never contributed a single idea to our products. Yet here she was, claiming credit for my life's work. When it was our turn to present, Mark started methodically dismantling Vanessa's narrative. He established the timeline of my relationship with Michael, the founding and growth of InnoVantage, and my role as its visionary leader. He called my executive team as witnesses, each confirming they had never heard of Vanessa Carlisle and had never seen her contributions in our product development. Then came our counterpunch. "Your Honor, we would like to enter into Evidence Exhibit 43B, Mark said calmly, handing documents to the clerk. A prenuptial agreement draft found in Michael Anderson's private files, containing handwritten notes outlining a conspiracy to claim ownership of InnoVantage's assets. Vanessa's face remained composed, but I saw her lawyer tense beside her. Mark continued, "We have had these notes authenticated by forensic handwriting experts. They clearly show that Mr. Anderson and Ms. Carlisle were not planning a legitimate business relationship, but rather a calculated scheme to extract value from Ms. Donovan's company through marriage fraud." The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge called for order, reviewing the documents with a deepening frown. "Furthermore," Mark continued when silence returned, "we have evidence that the technical information Ms. Carlisle claims to have contributed was stolen from Ms. Donovan's confidential files during a company retreat. This constitutes corporate espionage, not a legitimate business contribution." One by one, Mark revealed the elements of our case: the hidden compartment in Michael's desk, the evidence of information theft, and the pattern of deception. With each new revelation, I watched Vanessa's confident demeanor crumble slightly, her eyes darting more frequently to her attorneys. The turning point came when we presented our final witness, a digital forensics expert who had analyzed the damning technical emails. "These emails have been altered," he testified confidently. "While the metadata initially appears authentic, deeper analysis reveals evidence of tampering. The technical content was inserted into legitimate emails between the parties, creating a false impression of Ms. Carlisle's contributions." Vanessa's lawyer immediately objected, questioning our expert's method. The judge allowed aggressive cross-examination, but our expert held firm, explaining in clear terms how digital forensics could detect the manipulation. By day's end, the momentum had shifted. What had begun as a widow seeking her fair share had transformed into a case of fraud and corporate espionage. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed with new questions. "Ms. Carlisle, how do you respond to accusations of document tampering? Was this a planned conspiracy from the beginning? Did you target Ms. Donovan's company specifically?" This time, it was Vanessa rushing past with a terse, "No comment," while I stood calmly at the top of the courthouse steps, Mark beside me. "We're confident in the strength of our evidence," I stated. "InnoVantage was built through years of innovation and hard work by our incredible team. We will protect what we've built." That evening, as I prepared for the next day's testimony, my phone rang with an unknown number. "Claire," Vanessa's voice was instantly recognizable. "We should talk." "Any communication should go through our attorneys," I replied. "Listen, this doesn't need to get uglier. Michael loved you in his way. He saw an opportunity and took it. I'm willing to settle reasonable compensation for my silence about certain aspects of Michael's business dealings that haven't come to light yet." "Are you threatening me?" I asked, recording the call as Mark had advised me to do with any direct contact. "I'm offering you a dignified resolution. 20 million. I disappear. The world never hears about Michael's offshore accounts or his other activities." I let her words hang in the air for a moment before responding. "Blackmail on top of fraud. You're perfect for each other. See you in court tomorrow." I forwarded the recording to Mark immediately. By morning, the judge had been made aware of the improper contact, further damaging Vanessa's credibility. The trial continued for another 3 days, but the outcome was increasingly clear. Vanessa's case was collapsing under the weight of our evidence. Her testimony became defensive and contradictory. The confident woman from day one was replaced by someone increasingly desperate. On the final day, before closing arguments, Vanessa's legal team approached with a settlement offer. They would drop all claims in exchange for a $5 million payment and a confidentiality agreement. "They're running scared," Sarah whispered as we reviewed the offer. "They know they're losing." I shook my head. "Not a penny, and no confidentiality. I want the verdict on record." Mark nodded, understanding. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about truth, about protecting what I had built, about ensuring no one could ever again claim credit for my work or try to take what was rightfully mine. The judge's ruling came 2 weeks later. It was comprehensive and unambiguous. Vanessa's claim of legal marriage was rejected due to Michael's existing marriage to me. The evidence of conspiracy and fraud was deemed compelling and disturbing. All claims against in no vantage, and its assets were dismissed with prejudice. Most satisfyingly, the judge referred the evidence of document tampering to the district attorney for a potential criminal investigation. As the verdict was read, I watched Vanessa's face. The mask of a grieving widow had completely fallen away, replaced by cold fury. Our eyes met briefly across the courtroom. In that moment, I saw something I recognized, not love for Michael or genuine belief in her claims, but naked ambition. In another life, under different circumstances, perhaps we might have understood each other. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by my legal team and company executives who had supported me through the ordeal, I finally felt the weight lifting. Not completely. The betrayal by Michael would leave scars that might never fully heal, but enough to breathe again. "What now?" a reporter called out as I descended the courthouse steps. I paused, considering the question. Now I get back to what matters, leading my company and building our future. In the year that followed, In No Vantage not only recovered but thrived. Our stock price rebounded as investor confidence returned. We launched 2 major new products and acquired a smaller competitor. I was named Entrepreneur of the Year by 3 different publications, each article inevitably mentioning the dramatic court case I had won. Vanessa disappeared from New York, reportedly moving to Miami after the district attorney opened an investigation into the document tampering. I heard through industry channels that she had been quietly blacklisted by major financial firms, her reputation permanently tarnished. As for Michael's legacy, I donated his assets to a heart research foundation, finding some small measure of peace in transforming his betrayal into something positive. I sold the penthouse we had shared, unable to continue living surrounded by memories of our life together. On the anniversary of his death, I visited his grave alone. Not out of lingering love or even responsibility, but to finally say goodbye to the man I thought I had married and accept the reality of who he had been. "You almost destroyed everything," I whispered to the headstone, "but in the end, you made me stronger." I left no flowers, shed no tears. Instead, I walked away with my head high, back to the company that was mine. Back to the life I had built and would continue building, wiser, more cautious, but unbroken. The betrayal had changed me. I would never again be the woman who trusted so completely, who believed in partnership without verification, who shared her dreams without protecting them. That innocence was gone forever. But in its place stood something more valuable, a woman who knew her strength, who had fought for what was hers and won, who understood that sometimes the greatest threats come disguised as love. As I left the cemetery, my phone buzzed with a message from my executive team. Our latest product launch exceeded projections by 40%. New partnership opportunities were rolling in. The future stretched bright before me, a future that belonged to me. Some betrayals cut deeper than others. Some losses feel insurmountable. But I had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the people closest to us can cause the most damage, and that surviving that damage doesn't make you cynical. It makes you formidable. If you've ever had to rebuild after betrayal, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. How did you find the strength to fight back when everything was at stake? Like and subscribe if you believe that sometimes our greatest challenges reveal our true power. And remember that no matter how someone plans to destroy what you've built, resilience can be your most powerful weapon.